Hi, Steve.
Hi, Juan. Oye,
And tell us about your background because I have heard that you've been always an activist with your photographer. Anyways, just a little bit of background and how in the world you ended up in Chocó.
um, okay, that's a very important question, of course. And this all started because a friend of mine who's a Catholic priest, a co-activist, we had marched on many demonstrations and protests together, called me up in early 2003, and he said, Steve, a few of us are from the diocese here in Cleveland are going to a place you've never heard of, Bella Vista, Bojaya, El Chocó in Colombia, and we're going to participate in the first anniversary observation of a terrible massacre that happened there. And we want you to come. And there were only 3 or 4 people from here. And he said, I promise you that if you come with us, you will not, despite what a terrible thing this was, you will not get depressed. I promise you that, on the contrary, your spirits will soar. And so I had some time off. I had a job at that time. I had some time coming to me. So I said, yes, I'd come with him. And I immediately fell in love with the people and the place and the struggles of what that people were engaged in. For what? For dignity, for against violence, to be able to raise their kids in some peace, and so I thought this is a very wonderful place, but it's also a place where perhaps I can put my camera to use. My camera can be useful here. So I wrote a letter to people in the diocese, to the bishop and to people in the Pastoral Social. And I said, I'd like to come. I have more time coming to me this year. I'd like to come down in November and visit with you and see about launching a big photo project to help your work. They invited me to come. And by coincidence, and it really was a coincidence, I arrived in time to participate in what was called the Trateando, which was a peace caravan on the Atrato River, the biggest river in that area, one of the 3 biggest rivers in El Chocó, and a river that had been blockaded by the armed groups, both FARC and the paramilitaries. One of the pictures that you showed was of this line of kids. That was a little town called San Miguel, a tiny little community. And they were coming out, and their signs say "Paz, Paz, Paz," And then there was another picture of a couple of women who were shouting. Yes, and that was in Buchado, I think. There was a moment when we descended from our boats, and it was the evening in a town where we were going to stay for the night, and the Bishop Fidel, asked an old woman, well, probably the age that I am now, how do you feel? How do you feel right now? And her answer was, like when we were happy. And oh my God, I get all emotional just thinking about that all these years later. So I was hooked, I was committed, and I've come back and come back and come back. And there are other photographers, both Europeans and Colombians, who have been to El Chocó and have contributed a great deal. There's no doubt about that. But at one point, young people who were running the communications office of the diocese said to me, you know, all the photographers promise to come back, but you're the only one who keeps coming back.
Yeah.
So I felt, you know, sometimes I thank the people who organize my work there, because I depend on other people to organize the work, and I thank them, and they say, no, you shouldn't be thanking us. We have to thank you because you're doing this for us. And it's true, but I get a lot out of it. I get a tremendous amount. And what I get is the satisfaction of, I think, knowing something very important, which is my goal, which is I want to produce images and series of images and texts that are both rewarding to the viewer to look at, that are good images, but are also really tools in the activities of the resistance of the communities. And I have that.
Steve, I think you can, that can be round up on a sentence that you always said, that like you found out that in Chocó, yes, there is poverty, but these people are not miserable, you know? And I think the difference there for you know, of how you show us these images of these people, you know, they are, you know, in a very sort of difficult places of house and stuff like that, but they're always happy. There is that happiness there, which I think you really capture it. Okay, and just going, you know, how you also define some things about, you know, like, you know, how to do like a resistance of the people of Chocó for their identity, you know, like, and then we remember, you know, you're talking about like, oh, I have flown and some of the later trips to Chocó, and it's just amazing, the problem with mining, the deforestation, and some things that really your expressions as an artist, as a photographer, really affected us. So could you please expand a little bit on these ways of resistance and the issues of the problems there?
You know, Juan, I think there's a problem in the history of documentary photography and of other political work as well, and Goya and others, which is that people are often shown as victims, purely as victims of war, victims of oppression or of repression. But that's not adequate, and it's not a complete vision, because the people in El Chocó have been victimized. The terrible violence. They've been forced out of their communities. They've been forced away from their territorial land. And this has been going on since the Spanish forced the indigenous people off of their land, you know, and it's still going on and going on. But that's not who the people are. The people have been victimized, but the people are cannot be defined as victims simply. But they are also creative. They're also strong. They're also parents. They're also friends. They're also relatives of other people. They're activists, you know. Not everybody is an activist, but lots of people are. So I think it's very, very important to, if you're going to do social documents, that these documents have to show the entire truth, not just part of the truth. And if you just show people as victims, sometimes when I give talks about the politics of this work and the ethics of this work, especially with younger students, they'll say, oh, you know, I noticed that your pictures, you seem to have a lot of respect for the people, or you even maybe love the people in the pictures. How do you accomplish that? They ask me, as if it was a technique. There's a technique for showing dignity, you know? No. I said, if you want your pictures to show that you love the people, you have to love the people. That's, you know, that's where it starts. It has to start there, you know? And my collaborator the last few years in the mining project, my friend Mary Kelsey, an artist, says, she and I say, you know, our work does not begin with the camera and the pen. Our work begins with the relationship with the community. That's where the work begins.
You have come many times to Colombia, but when was the time when you met Juan Alberto and the program of Colombo Americano? How that relationship started?
In 2007, I think it was in 2007 or it was in the late 2007, November or December. We didn't know each other. We were both on a panel in Quibdó.
Yes.
That was addressed to social issues for youth. And it was a day or 2 days of activities, and we were on a panel about art and engagement with youth. And I mean, most of the people who were there were young people, teenagers or people in their early 20s. And I remember we were so impressed with each other. We hadn't met before, and we were both, I was so happy with the things you were saying, and you evidently were very happy with the things I was saying. I had to leave because I had another talk that I was giving in Bogota. I had to leave in the middle of the afternoon, but we said, no, we're going to continue this conversation. And then next thing I know, you were inviting me to do that. So it was.
Well, thanks to the cultural office of the American Embassy, who accept our requires, you came the next year to direct this lab with the Afro students from Quibdó, and also with the community here, which I think I always love that. The name of that new neighborhood from Quibdó, mainly in Medellín, Nuevo Amanecer. Tell us a little bit about your contact there and how you got connected with that neighborhood.
Well, the contact was made by some community activists in Medellín.
Yes.
Who you knew. And who you recruited also to be part of the leadership of that activity. That was very good. It was very helpful. And I remembered walking on the street in Medellín in those days, and thinking, wow, there's this festival going on about photography, because it was going on at the same time.
Yes.
And there was an activity at a university that I participated in, and then I also at the University of Antioquia, I worked with students there. And I remember the satisfaction of just being with so many people who saw a very positive role, social role for serious artistic activity, not trivial activity, good activity, good practice, but yes. That would be that it could really contribute to a las luchas, to the struggles of people for dignity, for peace, for progress, that we could really do something. And that's a tremendous, if you want to do that, it's not always so easy to do that. So if you want, like I do very much, to feel that your work is a contribution it's not just that it's good. It's not just that that you like doing the work, but that the work is a contribution, then that's a wonderful thing to happen to you. It doesn't always happen. You know that artisanal gold mining is traditional in El Chocó, in parts of El Chocó, as it is in Antioquia. But what's happened is what's shown in this image here is these big pits are being done by machines, being dug by machines. And they have to dig a lot because the gold is not in veins. It's not the big deposits of gold. It's little bits of grains and flakes of gold that's been brought down from the rivers. So they have to do this. The people who before had the activity of artisanal mining, and you can see this young woman right in the foreground of this picture has her batea, and she's gonna that's the most traditional, and her almacofre, which is very traditional tools, and but in the past she would have mostly been a farmer. And now what people tell us is, well, in these pits, it's less difficult than working in the rivers or in the streams, and we find more gold. It's interesting that much of the local leadership, if you talk to the people who are leading the communities, many of them are very worried about all of this. They think, first of all, they think that people are taking terrible risks with their safety and their health. And I had one person on one of the rivers, the Andagada, say to me, you know, there is not a community on this entire river that hasn't lost somebody in an accident in one of these pits because they're very unstable. But also, there's a tremendous loss of social solidarity, yes, of traditional ways of making a living. So I think the peril here is very great. There's great risk to the forest itself, to the flora and fauna of the forest. The rivers are dying. Actually, in El Chocó, you don't run into multinationals so much. You run into small groups of Colombians and Brazilians, and small groups. And this mine, for instance, which is on the Rio Quito, it's called El Tigre. One of the things you can see is that they just wipe aside the rainforest in order to create these pits, right? So they're having a terrible impact on the forest. And this isn't even lumbering, this is mining, right? And this mine was owned by three guys, one Chocoano and two Antioqueños. And so one of them was there when we visited the mine, and we asked him, well, what's your relationship with the armed groups here? What happens, you know? Oh, he says, oh, thank God, we haven't had any contact with them yet. So that means, what that told us is, there was no reason to believe anything he told us, because that was a terrible lie. This is the Rio Quito. This island that you see was created entirely by the dragas, by the dredges. The people call the dragas dragones. And this is the Quito River also. And what you can see in this picture, what you can really appreciate, is you can actually see the original course of the river. This was a narrow river, and it was crystal clear waters. and the rainforest came right to the edge of the river, except in very small plots where people were farming. And they have to farm right on the shores of the river because inland it's too swampy, it's too wet, and they really can't farm. Well, these dredges come and they create this wasteland. They sediment the river, they destroy the lecho, the river bed. They and so the first time we went up to this area of the upper Rio Quito, my friend and collaborator Mary and I, we went with a friend of ours from Quibdó, and he said, you know, I've heard that they have found mercury in the gills of fish in this river. So in Paimado, the biggest town on the river, we stopped at the municipal government, and I was talking to a couple of functionaries, and I said to one woman, you know, we've heard that they have found mercury in the gills of fish. She said, no, it's not possible. I said, well, why is it not possible? She said, it's not possible because there are no more fish.
Oh.
What a horrible thing. So the destruction has been horrible. See, this is traditional. This is what we call a sluice in English, a matraca, and this is a traditional way of mining for gold that does absolutely no environmental damage.
Could you please expand about your recent work on that I think has been very successful?
You know, we Mary.
What's the name?
Her name is Mary Kelsey.
Yes.
And Mary and I have tried to understand: is there a way that photography and drawing can work together to have a more of an impact than either just the photography or just the drawing would have? And we're convinced that that's the case, because especially her drawings, which are pen and ink drawings, they require that you look at them in a different way than the way you look at photographs. You know, you look at them differently. You know,
nice analogy. Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that we began to understand, for instance, is that she did some drawings of just scenery or panoramas, and they weren't very strong. That really the drawings are much stronger when they deal with details, you know. So and a kind of very muscular action that's in those drawings. We want to exhibit by hanging our drawings. Actually, the drawings that we exhibit are photographs I make of her drawings. Photographs and drawings that are pinned to the wall, just pinned to the wall. And the most common picture, the most common question that we got, the biggest question was, is this real? Are these really pictures from here in El Choco? So these were Chocoanos who, even though they live very close to what's happening, don't know.
And yeah, thank you so much, Steve, for this amazing conversation. Thank you, Juan Alberto.